Now, 95% of women in London consider hair loss to be a life-altering condition. This is according to a new study. 2/3 blame stress as a major contributor. Yet, very few visit their GP regarding the hair loss. Well, I'm really pleased to say here in the studio we have Dr. Omar Milhem. He's from the National Hair Council. Welcome, Doctor.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We accept men losing hair, don't we?
We do, very much.
And I always assume that is down to testosterone or hormones.
Spot on.
So women losing hair, is that also around a hormonal change then?
Female pattern hair loss is a very distinct pattern of hair loss compared to male pattern baldness. Women don't actually experience true baldness. So it's more of a Christmas tree pattern. The reasons behind it are very, very different. They are not testosterone driven. So they have a total different sort of pathophysiology, so to speak, but basically a different pathway. That's what causes it, a different causality for their type of hair loss. So for a female pattern hair loss, you actually can reverse it, unlike male pattern baldness, because the follicles have not miniaturized to such a point that the hair cannot regrow. Now, the sooner you treat, the more dormant these follicles are, the more that you can revive that hair growth cycle. So just in a nutshell, female pattern hair loss is reversible to a certain extent.
Right, but not for everybody. I mean, we do know of certain well-known celebrities who've had alopecia and it's never come back. And why would that be then?
They have something called alopecia totalis, alopecia universalis, which is an autoimmune disease.
Right.
So it's actually something that's occurring internally inside them. So what's happening is they are experiencing, because of their immune system is fighting the actual follicle growth. They represent 2% of the population, just under 2%. It's about 1.7. And what you find is the majority of women, you can treat their pattern of hair loss.
Just to go back to when you were talking about the immune system's whacked, would it manifest itself in any other way then, as well as the hair loss? Would these people be getting more ill, not being able to fight viruses?
Very much so. What happens with it, whenever you have an autoimmune disease, your ability to fight viruses is compromised because your immune system is overactive. This doesn't happen in all cases, but there are very different types of autoimmune diseases. I'll give you examples. Multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune disease. So you have these, rheumatoid arthritis. So they can attack the joints. They can attack your nervous system. So there are various combinations of this.
Any post-menopausal, even perimenopausal woman will say that her hair is thinner than it was in her youth. So what's that all about? And can you make it thicker?
First of all, you can make it thicker. So menopause is hormone driven. So what happens, because of the depletion of estrogen, you are affecting, they're showing a very strong relationship between estrogen controlling what are known as these simple molecules known as proteoglycans that control the signal pathway to hair follicle growth. So because they drop significantly, you aren't able to send signals to the hair to grow. So that's what causes the thinning. The longer you keep it that way, the more it thins. So in summary, what you can do is replenish those particular molecules that have been depleted by estrogen, and therefore you can cause the hair to thicken again and regrow.
And estrogen is obviously something that's prescribed. You need to be prescribed extra estrogen.
That's hormone replacement therapy.
Oh, I see. So that's HRT, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so people on HRT are likely to have a fuller head of hair.
They are likely to have a fuller head of hair. They're again unlikely to suffer from other conditions like osteoporosis. However, you can replenish these other molecules, not necessarily estrogen. So if you don't choose to go down HRT, we do have other therapies, a multi-therapy approach to give you the same or at least close to the same effect of having your premenopausal estrogen levels.
Right. I'm thinking about...
Yeah.
So now this is purely cosmetic, and I don't think this is anything to do with hormones. Your hair, the way you wear your hair can affect... If you have your hair tied up all the time, can it loosen the follicles? Can it start to pull it out? And also around the hairline, you can have a receding hairline because you brush or comb it more at the front than you do at the back. You're nodding. Is that a fact? That you can literally start pulling it out just by being grooming?
You can. can. Now, to explain, that will not directly cause alopecia.
Right.
There is something called traction alopecia, which is due to pulling.
Right.
And that is it is due to the constant pulling and insult there is when you're styling your hair. However, what it is, for example, think of each follicle having a set number of cycles. That means the hair falls out and starts again. And it has 10 lives. So the more that hair falls out, you're reducing the number of lives that follicle has.
It only has 10 lives.
Some hairs, especially on the frontal area, basically at the temples.
And after the 10th life, that's it, you're done.
You're pretty much done on that follicle. This is an average of cycles, and a cycle can last 5 years. So you're thinking it's about 50 years worth of hair. But this is why, if you do pull it out in an instance, stop or reduce it to give that life, extend that life, essentially.
Oh my goodness. All this thing about we're living longer, we're going to live longer but bald.
It seems that could be the case, but we can prolong the lives of the hair follicles.
So, oh my goodness. I mean, we should just listen to nature. Maybe we're not meant to be living, in 120 years of age or something, because nature hasn't supplied us with enough hair.
True. However, we are accelerating hair loss.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, through stress. Stress that is increasing at a much younger age, especially in females who are now juggling jobs, parenthood, their social pressures. It's causing hair loss to manifest at a much earlier age. So what we can do is at least remove that early onset of hair loss to bring it back in sync to what it should be.
So easy to say, though, isn't it? If you're stressed, the other thing is pregnancy, isn't it? I've never had a child, but I know your hair gets a real boost before pregnancy and then falls out afterwards.
Yeah, that's all down to your cycle. So the cycle is about the hair going into a resting phase and then falling out. So it grows, rests a bit, then falls out, starts another cycle of 5 years. But in pregnancy, the actual hormones that are changing actually protect the follicle to make them grow just a little bit longer, so they don't fall out. You actually have less hair fall.
You come from a scientific background, so never have there been more products for hair on the shelf. I mean, every type of shampoo, unction product, whatever. And yet we're losing our hair more.
To be honest, the products that are out there are, in my opinion, not
pointless.
Many are pointless. Some are good.
So go on, without naming brands, what's a good product then?
I would say, first of all, you would need to understand the type of hair loss. So, this is why we've set up this council. We're leading experts, where we are looking at. It's a non-profit council. It's looking at all the effective solutions out there. So you're able to then recommend effective products. There are some topical products, some supplement products, which you do need, and some medications, even to the point that the GP now does not recognize what is the right treatment for hair loss, because it's not seen as a essential disease, not seen as a sort of critical illness. It's just seen as something, okay, your hair loss, fine, you're aging, that's fine. However, we are trying to recommend clinically proven products.
Really?
And they do exist, even if they are on the shelves. And this is what we're trying to filter out, the products that claim but are purely cosmetic.
That's interesting. Do you think you'll succeed? Because we're just sheep. If we read that it can do this, this and that, we'll believe it half the time. So you think you might filter all those out?
In a way, you've led me on to my next point, is what we try to do and strive to do. Not only are we collecting the data, we then challenge the products. We then challenge the brand, saying, well, if your studies, which are double-blind, placebo-controlled, they're clinical studies, let's put it to the test. And what we're doing now is one product that is natural, safe. We're doing a trial, a large trial. It's unnamed, so you can visit the site, fill out the newsletter, and what you do is you get asked to conduct this trial, and it just allows people to test this product to see on a wider scale. We do this on a global basis.
And so any of our listeners can do this?
Any of your listeners can do this.
So just give us the website again.
It's nationalhaircouncil.org.uk. Scroll right to the bottom, fill out, subscribe to the council, to the newsletter, and you will get an invite, probably in about a week to 2's time, with an invitation to a free trial.
Now, can I also talk about type of hair? I've been told red hair is thicker than blonde hair, which is denser than brunette. Is any of that?
I don't believe in those sort of myths or statements. Your follicle size is what predicts the thickness of your hair. Funny enough, the more cycles you go through, remember those lives, the more you get shrinkage of the follicle. Right. It kind of expands and then shrinks a bit. No, you can have thin and thick hair that is black, and you can have thin and thick hair that is blonde or red.
Now, we lose, is it 100 hairs a day?
True.
And that's on a healthy head.
Absolutely.
But each of those hairs has only got 10 cycles.
We're talking about the ones at the temples.
Only at the ones at the temples.
Yes.
So on the top of the crown, they've got more cycles?
They got a few more. The ones on the sides of your head have the longest cycles.
Oh, do they?
This is why even men, when they bald,
yes, have they? You're right.
They are shedding the same amount of hair. It's just those have more cycles.
I see. So the hair on the side of your head, everybody, that's the hardier hair there. Okay, so I do yoga. I do a headstand every day because someone said you'll never need glasses, which is wrong because I'm wearing a pair of glasses here talking to you. But also it will stimulate hair growth. Standing on your head, you're a scientist. Will you poo-poo this?
I would poo-poo that, I'm afraid, because the theory there...
Yes, but the man that taught you Hudi Menuhin, yoga, he had the longest ponytail you've ever seen. He was a teacher called BKS Iyengar. He had hair all the way down his back, and he told Yehudi to do a headstand every day.
Do you know, probably you have... that person was quite lucky, but also you're reducing stress.
Yes, that's true, yes.
Cortisol levels, it causes inflammation in the scalp. So by reducing stress, you are significantly reducing disruption of your cycles.
Finally, you came in and my egg-obsessed producer was asking about how many eggs you should eat because you're a doctor. Nutrition, what part does it play in hair? Is there anything that can help assist in a healthy head of hair?
There are things. I would take, in terms of diet, I would reduce anything that causes sugar spikes or insulin levels to go out of control. I would use products that are very rich in vitamin B. Diets high rich in eggs. Vitamin B is very good. Iron, which is there's a strong link between iron levels and what's known as temporary shedding, telogen effluvium. So there's a good clinical study there. So anything with good iron amounts. And I'd say vitamin C as well, high levels of vitamin C.
I said in my introduction that women rather, are apprehensive of going to see their GP about this. Should they? Or should they come and see the National Hair Council? To
be honest, I think they should do both.
Okay.
I think it's very good to see your GP because they may be clued up and aware of what treatments are available, whether they're OTC treatments over the counter or there's something they can prescribe. The reason I say we'll see a GP just in case there's no underlying cause. But I would also visit the site for you to get as much information that is independent and sourced from experts as well. And
this is my fear when I go to the hairdresser. I'm always so scared they're going to start brushing my hair and then they go, there's bald patches, which is the beginning of alopecia. Can you halt it? I mean, that hasn't happened to me so far. Yeah. But can you, when you're getting bald patch, when hair's coming out in clumps, can you halt it?
It all depends on the type, but yes, you can. So it won't be as sudden unless you had an autoimmune disease. Right. If you started to get thinning, it would be more diffuse. It's all over the scalp.
Yes.
So you won't notice till 30% of your hairs have gone. That's when it becomes visible because the volume is gone. You won't notice a bald spot as such. You would notice more thinning. So if you start to see more than 100 hairs or you perceive more than 100 hairs, close to 300 and above, and there's a general thinness of the scalp, then I would start to seek treatment.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. And this is another reason why use a hairdresser that you see regularly because they will get to know your hair, won't they? And
absolutely.
They can say, oh gosh, it's a bit thinner. Have you been to see your doctor?
I think hairdressers have a very good role to play in this, a fundamental role, because they see you on a regular basis. They actually know your scalp better than you do.
Yes. What do you think about highlights?
Highlights, again, it has shown that you are just bleaching the hair itself. You're not affecting the follicle. Right. So at this stage, there's no evidence that shows that it will cause damage to the follicle.
I can't have high cholesterol and grey hair. I may as well just keep indoors. Listen, thank you so much, Dr. Omar Milhem. And one more time for the website of the Hair Council.
Yes, it's nationalhaircouncil.org.uk.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.